Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Welcome to this Kaptio webinar. We're going to be talking for the next 55 minutes about travel platforms and systems that can help you run your business more efficiently. We've got 3 agenda items today, and those agenda items are: first, challenges within your leisure travel environment. We've been very fortunate over the last 5 or 6 years in that we've managed to visit several hundred travel organizations across the globe. And we've listened intently to their internal gripes and issues. And we've noted that they tell us they have a lot of problems associated with their internal systems. And what we've done is we've come along and we've built Kaptio on top of the Salesforce platform. So agenda item number 2 is really, we're going to talk a little bit about what are the alternatives out there. How can you overcome some of them pain points, some of them challenges with your legacy travel systems. But the main event, so to speak, of today is going to be roughly 35, 36, 37 minutes demonstration of the Kaptio of the Salesforce platform. I'm going to hand over the reins later on to our COO and co-founder, Ragnar Funderson, who is going to give you a particular or go through a particular usage case of travel from initial inquiry all the way through the booking, managing the booking, taking the payment, and interacting with your suppliers. A little bit of housekeeping. There will be questions undoubtedly that come up. What I would encourage you to do after the session is to email either myself, Shane at kaptio.com, or to email info@kaptio.com as well. Also, we will be showing just one particular travel usage case. The environment, the platform, the system is capable of handling many different types of travel scenarios. We're just going to be showing one, or Ragnar's just going to be showing one later. If it's not the one that is used by you and your organization, they'll be more than happy to set up a subsequent demo going through a particular travel usage case which is more relevant for you and for your travel business. So without further ado, let's crack on. The first section and the second section in total will come to about 12 minutes. It's about 4 slides. So we're just really going to set the scene. Why are us humans so difficult? We have all booked a trip before and in the past. We have all gone on holiday, and as a human race, we're very, very, very demanding, and we're becoming more demanding. We want everything real time. We want to be able to easily cancel, amend a booking. We want the travel organization to be able to understand what sort of person we are. Where did we go last year? And going and speaking with travel organizations across the globe, they said, hey, Shane, look, you know, we've got all these systems in place, but we can't keep up with the demands of the 21st century traveler. The systems today are just not really good enough. And part of that problem, we're told, and we actually saw ourselves many, many times before, is all down to a couple of things. First of all, the travel supply chain. The way that travel organizations perhaps interact with their suppliers is not so tightly coupled as it could be. The way travel organizations interact with the passengers, with the consumers, is perhaps not as great as it could be. And the same with resellers. You couple that with the fact that a lot of solutions, a lot of point systems across your organization don't communicate very well with one another. Furthermore, as technology has grown over the decades, a lot of verticals have very much kept up with that pace of technology change. What we have seen and what travel organizations have certainly told us over the last 5 or 6 years is that they're perhaps not bleeding edge when it comes to keeping up with that technological change. A lot of their systems are still on premise. A lot of companies now are starting to move to the cloud, take advantage of social, but really there are solutions out on the marketplace which allow you to make a huge technological jump, run your business or 80–90% of your business from the cloud, and then give you a lot more efficiencies within your organization. And probably the most common scenario we see, and we're calling it the old way, if you like, or the legacy way, is shown on this particular slide here. At the heart of the system, or really perhaps the only main system, is the booking environment, is the reservation system. And that isn't particularly well connected with other systems that you may or may not use within your travel organization. Perhaps you've got a CRM, perhaps you haven't, perhaps you use marketing automation, perhaps not. But time and time again, our travel organizations are saying, we don't really have a lot of this other technology. And when we do have it, it doesn't really communicate that well. So a new approach, and there's been companies adopt this new approach, certainly over the last 5 years, is the connected customer platform, putting your customers at the center of everything, making that center the travel CRM, and everything that is done for your customer, and having that information centralized, but actually having communication with the operations platform, the reservations platform, the marketing platform, the finance, having omni-channel sales distribution, and to manage that all in one place gives you a tremendous increase in efficiencies and how you actually operate your business. So let's talk about the platform. Let's talk about this Kaptio Salesforce platform. What does that mean? So Kaptio is an organization in its own right. Salesforce, obviously the #1 CRM organization in the world. And Salesforce has a wonderful CRM used by many, many hundreds of thousands of businesses across multiple verticals. With Kaptio on top of that, then we give you, the travel organization, all the extra functional modules to run your business on the Salesforce platform. And the net end result is not only are you better connected with your suppliers, you're better connected with your customers. You allow them to interact with you in a more real-time manner, and therefore, ultimately, your end customer becomes very, very happy. The Salesforce platform itself has many, many elements to it. And one of the advantages of using a platform-based approach across your organization is that you get access to all the additional functional modules from both Kaptio and Salesforce as and when and if they come available. So you may use Kaptio as the reservation engine on top of the Salesforce CRM platform, but you may also go to Salesforce and procure some of their marketing tools, which of course you can do. Salesforce has an app exchange where there are over 4,000 apps available that you can download and integrate tightly on the platform to mop up additional functionality. You'll see later on when Ragnar gives the demonstration that demonstration will be in the Lightning UI. Salesforce now has 2 UIs available, as the Classic and the Lightning. Once you invest in the platform, you get access to a lot of these features either as part of the offering or as cost option extras, which you can download and will run seamlessly within your environment. So there's no need, as we were told by quite a few travel organizations, to perhaps go out, find a niche consultant that comes in and consults and has to develop additional functionality on your legacy systems, which of course translates into additional cost. So just slowly wrapping up, for those of you out there that have more of an IT bias, what does the complete holistic environment look like for a Kaptio / Salesforce platform? Well, we started as an organization about 5.5 years ago when we built out the core in the middle. And of course, as part of that, we've got access to all of the wonderful Salesforce products and services. So that's step one, building out the core. And as time has progressed, we started building out the front end. So if your business warrants a website where your customers can search and make a booking, well, guess what? Now, as part of the platform and via Heroku, which is a Salesforce-based technology as well, we have the ability to allow your customers to directly search and make bookings from the front end, if your business warrants that. We then moved on to more the back end and developed KT Connect. What's KT Connect? KT Connect is the ability to pull through live inventory, live pricing from third-party GDS, PMS type environments. Very, very popular across the globe. We have the capability now on the platform to be able to do that. Suffice to say, we need to understand what environments you need to be connected to understand if those connectors are available out of the box. And then in the future, we're not there yet, but the ability to actually seamlessly integrate with OTAs and the like for trade and distribution, again, on the front end. So finally, before we hand over and spend the remaining 40-45 minutes just running through Salesforce, running through Kaptio in a particular flow, I wanted just to show you the Kaptio travel canvas. What does that mean? We've mapped out all of the travel functional elements that you may need to manage within your organization if you're selling travel. Now, this is pretty much most of them across the product, the marketing, the sales, the booking, the payment, and the customer relationship. You, if you're a small or a niche player, may only have a few of these that you need to manage. But what coverage do you get with the combined Kaptio Salesforce solution / platform? Well, all the blue elements are what you can cover off with the single platform. And just to be 100% clear, even though Kaptio and Salesforce are separate organizations, separate licenses, it's one platform, it's one set of credentials. So traditionally, to cover all of this functionality, you may have required 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 systems and a plethora of Excel spreadsheets. With Kaptio and the Kaptio Salesforce platform, you can cover off a lot of these very, very easily, reducing the complexity and therefore increasing the efficiency. So that's pretty much all I wanted to do really initially, just to set the scene. Identify what we've seen by way of pain points, challenges that travel organizations have told us, and also we've clearly seen. Talk a little bit about what's possible with a platform-based approach, but the main crux of today's session is really to show you Salesforce, to show you Kaptio in action. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass over to Ragnar, our COO and co-founder. He is in another office. He will share his screen and start to run and explain the actual travel scenario that we're going to be demonstrating today. Ragnar, over to you, sir.
Great, thanks, Shane. Very exciting to be presenting today. Been around for a while, Kaptio. This has been one of on our to-do list for a while to do a proper online webinar, and we were really happy with the signups and the registrants that came in. And then thank you for joining the session. I hope you'll get something out of it for today, and it'll help explain a little bit more about what Kaptio is doing in more concrete terms. So, like Shane was describing, we have a pretty powerful platform that we've been working on now for the last couple of years. And I think the biggest benefit that we as a product company have is our relationship with Salesforce. We have focused all our engineering efforts on the functional rather than the architectural and the infrastructure, if you will. That is, of course, something that Salesforce provides us out of the box. So we've been able to I think, get to a place where we're covering quite complicated enterprise scenarios, which we wouldn't have been able to do without leveraging Salesforce's infrastructure. So a lot of what you see here today will, if you're familiar with Salesforce, you will easily recognize the difference between what Salesforce offers and what we have then on top of that. But what we like to highlight to customers is that the combined power is really what differentiates Kaptio in the market and can allow you to do things very differently from what other vendors offer. It's very common that it's sometimes quite difficult to compare Kaptio to other travel technology because of this, and I think that makes us a little bit of a little bit more unpredictable in this market, because I think we're able to push stuff out a lot quicker, and at the same time being able to customize the solution to different use cases. And the use case that I want to be showing you today is mostly focused on a typical FIT case, focused on getting a direct customer on an FIT trip that includes flights, transfers, and hotels. But we already have several customers running on very different cases. So whether it's inbound tour operation, whether it's an outbound tour operator, whether it's luxury travel or luxury travel agents, cruise or train, we have quite a bit of different setups already leveraging the core engine and the core reservation part of the system. But anyway, let me dive into it. So what you're seeing here today is the Lightning UI of Salesforce. I went into login.salesforce.com, gave in my credentials, and here I am on the home screen for the Kaptio Travel Sales app. So just quickly, for those not familiar with Salesforce, Salesforce provides these different apps, and I can open different apps here using the app launcher. So these are the apps that are available to me as a user on the platform. I get the finance app from Kaptio, the pricing app from Kaptio, and so on, as well as other apps that both the Salesforce provide as well as other app exchange partners. And anytime I change an app, I will get different navigation objects here, or tabs on the top here. And these tabs allow me to access different kinds of information. For example, we have Chatter, which is a social media type of solution thought for the enterprise. We have web submissions, which is Kaptio inquiries that come in from the website. We have accounts that represent your customers, your suppliers, and your trade agents. Reseller agreements that manage your commissions with resellers. Itineraries that represents the actual bookings or the quotes that you send to your customers, and so on. So different tabs give you access to different information, essentially. And the concept is that from a user experience perspective, it doesn't really matter where you are in the application. You should always follow a very similar flow in terms of the structure of information that we show on these different tabs. And you'll see that throughout the application that is consistent, relatively consistent of how you look at data within the system. All right, but I've logged in here as Keith Emerson, kudos to anyone who is familiar with him. But Keith Emerson is, in this case, a sales guy working for a travel company called Let's Travel. And he is looking at his dashboard, his sales dashboard. And this could be something that we set up as part of the leadership, sort of sales leaderboard for the team as a whole, for this individual sales agent, or for at the executive level across multiple teams. So this is, again, just leveraging out of the box Salesforce to report on any records that we have in the system. One of my favorite things when we were building Kaptio, I used to be CTO at Kaptio, and one of the favorite things that we never did was build a reporting engine, because building reporting engines is very complicated, and it is time consuming from building things, other bits and pieces of functionality. So having the ability to be fully compatible with Salesforce's reporting was always and is one of my favorite things about the system. That we're able to expose the different data that we collect in the system and build wonderful dashboards like these to really bring information value to the users. So this home screen here can be configured depending on different users in the system. So like I said, this could be different contexts. This, for me in particular, is from a sales agent's perspective. I can see my recent records. I can see all my tasks, my overdue tasks that I've connected to different things, like either a customer or a different booking, or different elements of who I can connect tasks to. And then I can go into the detail and work off that. So this can be used quite effectively to manage tasks, and it can automatically create tasks for users depending on certain criteria. As well as we can synchronize Salesforce to either Outlook or Microsoft 365, as well as Google Mail, so we can synchronize calendar events and email across the system back directly into Salesforce. Same as with items to approve, Salesforce provides a very powerful approval engine that allows you to, for example, set up approval processes for example, if you want to go below a certain margin in one of your offers, or if you want to go below a certain, or offer a custom promotion for one of your customers, we could set up an approval process that allows you to get escalations from your managers to approve before sending out that specific quote to a customer, as an example. Okay, but let's dive into more concrete terms on the account level. So if I open up accounts here, we have different lists here. We have all my agents, we have all of my suppliers, and I have all of my customers. So we'll start on the supplier side, just to see a high level. Here are all the suppliers that I've loaded into the system. And we'll start and look at this Australian DMC that I set up here. So this is where we start to get into some more Kaptio specific functionality, and you'll see that we're blending here together the account objects. We have things like the supplier agreement, which is how we will be paying this particular supplier. This includes different payment rules and cancellations policies that we will have with the supplier. So if I open up this in detail, we can actually see here that I have two rules, payment rules related to this supplier. They request a 25% deposit on the booking date, and then they need 30 days before travel, they need the remaining balance to be paid. So you can create any combinations of rules here. It can be a deposit of a fixed deposit. It could also be a per person charge or a per room charge. So we're able to work with flexible rules here to determine what kind of payment is required to the agent, or sorry, to the supplier. Then this obviously would then create estimated costs or actual costs that you have to pay your suppliers as part of each booking. So that's sort of how the finance part of Kaptio ties into this from a supplier invoicing perspective. We then have different items that this DMC provides. So in this case, I've just set up several different hotels for this DMC, which I'm contracting through the DMC. So we are using this DMC, or we're partnering with this DMC to get access to all these different hotels. Some of them might be on request, some of them might be on allotment. We'll cover that later. The different setups depending on each different hotels. Here we can see the different supplier invoices that I've matched to bookings in the system, as well as supplier notes, supplier contact roles that I've set up, supplier contacts, and notes and attachments. So anything that's really relating to that supplier, we will find here on this screen. And if I click into the details here, we'll also see some other information like what their primary currency is. We can also edit this so that we enable alternative currencies for the supplier, or we can strictly restrict it to only this currency. We can have a confirmation method. And this is really allowing us to define more advanced settings. For example, that if I am sending out if I'm booking this DMC and I don't have a live API to get their inventory from, we could actually use an email confirmation method, which would send out a link to this person I've defined here. And it could be different depending on whether I'm selling different kinds of channels. So if I'm selling group holidays, we could have a different reservations inbox than if it is FIT and things like that. So it allows you to configure these kind of routings of confirmation methods if you're not doing live connectivity. Okay. What great thing about Salesforce and its platform is its metadata model. It's essentially allowing our customers to add custom fields and custom attributes to this view without ever having to contact neither us or Salesforce. So it's completely in the hand of your company's administrator to add in fields here. And then, for example, be able to report on it, create business processes from it, and workflow rules. So this is a big, like, I don't know anything else really. I've grown up with technology where those kind of customizations are just normal. You can extend the data model. I'm fortunate in that way, but it isn't like we tend to take it for granted, those who are working in the Salesforce ecosystem, because this is seriously powerful for a company who has maybe been reliant on one technology vendor who owns the data model. And if you need to add a new field or do different kinds of reporting or different kinds of customizations to your system, you're completely at the hands of your vendor to make those changes instead of being able to just do it yourself. And you know, one of the things that I always set out with customers when we do new projects is that, you know, we have a tool here that can really empower your administrators and your business users so that you're not dependent on your single vendor. So you could do stuff yourself. And I think anyone who's worked with Salesforce technology kind of can relate to what I'm saying, because they know how easy it is and how quick you can get solutions out. And those who haven't worked with Salesforce technology, you're missing out. That I think is a big differentiator compared to the travel technology out there today, is that you can't get that customizations in as easily as with Salesforce. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at one of these items now. Actually, let's go here and let's use the Sydney Meriton Suites. I think this is a nice hotel. I've never been there, but it's probably quite nice. I've set up an item here that is connected to the same supplier we were looking at earlier. And I'll just walk you through a couple of these properties here. But most importantly, we have some form of geolocation for this item. So we know we've tagged this item, both its address and GPS location, which we'll see used throughout the system from downstream of this. And then we've set up different things that allow us to configure, for example, tax, commission, discount groupings. So Kaptio has obviously support for different handlings of different tax levels, different commission levels, and different discount levels, which you can use our grouping technology for, or grouping solution for, as well as the ability to determine properties and parameters around this particular item. So for example, just populate this. This is obviously going to be a 4-star hotel with this default check-in and check-out time. And again, just because this is a Salesforce object or a Kaptio object, you can add custom fields here very easily, again, for your reporting or workflow. So if you wanted to group your hotels in certain ways, then it's very easy to do that. So on the left here, you can see the sidebar is a little bit different than on the other screen. We've grouped things together here depending on the different actions that you need to perform for this item. So we'll start on the room types. So the room types really give you all the different options that the hotel has. It gives you, first of all, the different room types that we've set up in the system with its default occupancy and default inventory and categorization of those rooms. You can add more rooms, you can quick add rooms, so you can add multiple rooms at the same time. And you can then assign different board bases to this particular hotel. So for example, I can say that this hotel here offers room only and full board as potential options for the different stays that I do there. And these are global settings. So you can create these board bases at the global level, change it within your environment. If you want to use different terminology, you know, UK would use bases, board bases, US and Canada would use meal plans, and it's quite easy to change that in the system, as well as adding add-ons and supplements. So add-ons and supplements allow you to model more kind of things that you buy in addition to your main room type, essentially, within the system. Okay, so actually gonna jump over to another hotel that I know has better pricing. There we go, the Marina Side Hotel. And we're gonna open up the price manager for the Marina Side Hotel. Now, the price manager is where you define your cost and sell rate. So like Shane was talking about earlier, our Kaptio Connect initiative is this long-term investment for Kaptio and with our customers, where we are essentially, we are taking a pretty strong stance against on-request bookings. We don't like them, our customers don't like them, so we are finding enablers within technology enablers so that we can simply get rid of on requests as much as we can. However, contracted rates will never disappear in the industry. I think you'll always have reasons why you bypass digital channels to get live rates and live inventory. If, for example, you're working with a very preferred partner where you have very preferred rates. So that's a scenario which I don't think we can combat against, at least not as easily as selling the same hotels that offer the same rate through your contracted rates as it does through online channels or digital channels. So we will always support both, that you can load in your contracted rates as well as being able to map your hotel to a live inventory source. So what I wanted to show you today, because it is still quite common that you have contracted rates, is the price manager feature. First of all, you have different price seasons within the price manager. So for example, these are all the price seasons that we've loaded in previously for this hotel. I can then just see the active ones. I can quickly add new price seasons and add multiple periods to that season. So for example, I could call it the high season and have multiple dates associated with it. I can also have different days of the week associated with it for weekend pricing or for special day pricing. And then I assign price rules to this price season. And that's where this manage prices tab comes in. And so the story behind the price grid, as we call it, is really that we were constantly battling with pricing managers and people, entry managers using the system about what's the most efficient way to load contracted rates into the system. And they always kept coming back to Excel. It should just be as easy as putting data into Excel. And yeah, we know, but we can't build Excel that easily. But it turns out it actually is possible to take the best features of Excel so that you can really, really quickly load in different rates with Excel-like functionality. So what we've done here is we've added a filtering engine. So let's, for example, say I just want to filter down on my superior rooms, or just for example, just want to filter everything down to a specific price season, everything in my high season. So I'll apply that filter. So here's everything that I have for that. I can then copy this, paste it, and start completely from scratch. Let's try again. So that I can just overwrite the price season, for example, and paste that across, and then start to work on my rates for these same items that I was just working on. So that way, we're at least able to get the same efficiency and speed from the loading perspective as users get from an Excel spreadsheet essentially. So that was it's been a big you know, we've obviously invested a lot of time and effort in making this user interface work for the entry of rates, and this is one of the ways that you can load the data into the system. Just target an item, load in the rates. But we also offer a very powerful import export tool that we built, so you can import flat data into the system, process it, and then it gets allocated to the correct items based on different external IDs and external references. So we have both those options for loading those rates into the system. So this is essentially the screen where you'd load in all your cost rates. So I'll just walk you through this. There's different sales types here. You can load in a rate that's only applicable to a certain price list. What this means is that you can set up special price lists that's only applicable to a certain customer or only applicable to a certain channel. You can also apply a different price to it that's only applicable to a certain group of customers or a specific customer. So you can have different levels that say this cost rate is only applicable to certain types of transactions. All customers is essentially the equivalent of the best available rate for either direct or trade. Whereas you can do more targeted rates here on the different sales types. Then we link the rate to a room or in this case, I have some add-ons here like the hotel parking and the luggage handling. We tie that to a board basis. We assign the price season. We assign the currency of what we are contracting this hotel in. We assign the value of that, so the amount. And then we can combine that with some powerful business rules and conditions. So for example, if you look at, we have here different rules with these 4 different lines here. So if we look at this, this is the base rate that the system would get. This is the base value, like with no real conditions associated to it. I put the rate code here is called base that we stamped on the booking, so I know how many times this has been used, things like that. And I can also see that this is just value here is 112 euros per night for this combination of booking during the high season. Now, if I book during this start and end date, I will get this price, meaning there's a special incentive for me to book during these dates where I can get a little bit cheaper rate for my hotel. I will also, if I'm buying 3 rooms, I will get this rate. And if I'm buying 4 nights, I will get that rate. So you can actually allow all of these prices to overlap. And then based on how you've configured the system, the competing rates will depending on what context that you have done, will allow you will allow the system to return the most applicable rate. So if I'm booking, the system by default will always look for the cheapest rate first. That is actually configurable, but by default, it should, if it finds these kind of competing rates, it will try and find the most cheapest one that's applicable to the sales user, and then use that. So you can combine a variety of things here. You can do stay 7 nights, pay 6. You can do minimum of 3 rooms for 3 nights and get a different unit rate for it. And there's a lot of flexibility in how we model these different business rules and the minimum types and things like that allow you to configure the different cost rates. But enough on that. Actually, every time I save, there's a change history that asks me for a comment for what I had changed, and then we can always go to the change history here and see all the different changes that have been made with the start date as well. On the selling side, we offer a couple of different global levels or different levels. You can always use a channel markup, meaning we're just going to use the cost and apply a markup, and that's the default behavior of the system. We can also set a item markup, so that I can, for example, say for this period, I want to have a 25% markup for this item, so I can combine the cost rate and the sell rate. And then I can also do a fixed amount, where basically I'm going to be selling this item at 150. You have to define the currency here. 150 euros if it's booked during this prices. So you're able to combine these different settings together, and there's no dependency. Like you can have the cost rate and the sell rate are essentially detached from the architectural perspective, so that you have full flexibility in how you can price that out. Okay, on the currency exchange side of things, you could load in your single sell price in a single currency, and then use our currency conversion module to manipulate or manage the rules for the currency settings. We sometimes joke that one of the benefits of being from a small economy like Iceland, it means that we were forced to build a very, very good currency engine. I actually think we went a little bit overboard. We built something that's quite powerful and allows you to manage your currency risk and your currency strategies in basically any way that you want. So that's one of the things of, Kaptio being an Icelandic company, working primarily with Icelandic customers in its early years. We were kind of forced down that road, but thankfully it seems to be quite useful in other destinations similar to Iceland, where customers are leveraging that feature quite a lot. But yeah, it's completely up to you guys how you would set up your currency strategy, but we obviously would recommend trying to simplify things and using live conversion rates or dynamic conversion rates, so you don't have to load in your rates in multiple different currencies, or fix the sell rate in multiple conversions. All right, so so that's the pricing side of things, and I just quickly want to show the inventory. Inventory can either be modeled so that you get the inventory from a live connector, or you can always load in allotment contracts, and where we have also like a grid here. So you can see here we have some allotments here for May. There are still 15 available for the 1st of May. We've already released 15 of them, and if I see here currently there's nothing on hold, or there's nothing booked. I can always go and look at the bookings for that. Right now, there are no bookings for any of these dates. So this is where we essentially would manage all these different allotment days and see how things relate to each other from a booking perspective. Finally, just very quickly on the content side, you can load in different content in different languages to your environment, and this essentially allows you to create a different article in different languages for different parts of the sales process. So you could, for example, say that during your proposal stage, you would like have a different article than for your booking confirmation or for your final itinerary, or you could use the same across everything. So here I've just loaded in a feature image, a couple of images. We have our image library here where we can easily upload new images. And then we have text here that will be displayed when we use this in a quote or in a booking. Okay, so that should give you guys an overview of the supplier and product management side of things. And then from how we can then offer these different products, how do we get this out to the customer? So if I just quickly switch over to the pricing app, you'll see that we offer different things here. We offer, actually, we create packages in the system. So the packages essentially allows you to create predetermined packages with predetermined components, either dynamic packages or fixed packages, or something that we call like in between, where you have preferred suppliers or preferred hotels or preferred components within those packages. So I'm not going to go into the setup of that. I'll easily burn through the rest of my time if I do that. But I'll be showing you how that works on the front end, from the sales perspective of how packages get sold within the system. So I'm just going to jump back over to sales, and I'm going to find a customer. So I can always go here to see recent records. So Joe Smith is one of my recent record customers. I can see that Joe has traveled with me a couple of times. So I have different itineraries here set up for Joe with different booking numbers and statuses and different travel dates. I see that she's contacted me through a submission for a web form several times, and that's all been processed and everything looks good. And then we have different notes and attachments, as well as the entire activity timeline and history here from different things that I've posted to Joe throughout the journey with her being in the system. But I'm just going to go and create a brand new itinerary, and we'll do Joe's Australian adventure. And here's where I can then choose which channel this itinerary will be created from. So the channel gives us a lot of different, like we inherit a lot of rules depending on the channel. So obviously, some of these channels, if I were working in the luxury department of Let's Travel, I wouldn't necessarily get to see all these other channels. I just see the luxury department. The same as if I'm working in custom cruise, I just see custom cruise. So this is essentially allows us to group together logic that's related to how to sell FIT at Let's Travel or how to sell group touring at Let's Travel. So we're going to do FIT here. It will default to this currency because that's what the channel says. I could also have it default to the customer's currency, or to the, if this is a travel agent, to the travel agent's currency. So there's different ways to restrict and control which currency we're allowed to sell. Then I'm just going to put in just any start date here. This will update as based on what I had in into my costings. And then I will add a group size of 2 and just go ahead and save that. All right. So now I have a itinerary for Joe, and we get a new sidebar here on the left. So what's very common these days is that because we actually allow you to change the sidebar, is that we add custom sidebar pages for our larger customers in particular, who want to really tailor the process from how you take a customer through the quoting and the selling over to operating that person's itinerary. So we kind of have these sections here called sales and operations. But then for cruise, for example, we'd have, cabin allocation is a big thing for cruise, where we'd have a cabin button here where you can easily assign people to different cabins. And then, there's different logic and different rules that we can create and show in these different screens here. But these are the default ones out of the box. You can see here some key information about this itinerary. Right now, there's not much to look at because we haven't added a package or added any components into it. But you can see here we have total amounts and markup that will update based on whatever I add into the costings, as well as the activity history. And every time that, for example, I respond to an email from the customer, we can have it automatically tracked to this itinerary. You can integrate with call center technology such as New Voice Media and other call center partners that Salesforce has already integrated into the Salesforce platform, so it can automatically log calls and automatically open up this person's most recent booking or most recent quote within the system. So you can do some very, very nice little things and features that combining the Salesforce platform with what Kaptio offers. But let's go into costings. And let's say that this is relatively easy sale because the customer calls in and Joe really knows what she wants. She wants that Australian package. She's dead set on that. So I don't need to educate her too much. I don't need to talk to her about different options. She's set on a date. She's set on a package. So I'll just go and click on add package. And we get access to different packages depending on the channel, for example, that I've selected. So I'm just, I have only very simple packages here. So I'm just going to choose this one, the Sydney, Melbourne, Perth 2018 package. So what the system now did was I configured one of those items earlier. And I think we looked at the Kent Street, for example, as one of those items. That item is one option in the package. And the different components here show me what options are available within each component. So for example, the flight, it will default to an economy flight. And this is complex routing. It's going through from Toronto over to LAX to Sydney. And if I click on the flight here, first of all, I could show the different ticket types. But if I've loaded in an alternative route, or I am offering dynamic flights here, then we could be showing any different routing type here, essentially, allowing me to choose what type of flight we're gonna wanna book for this customer. The same as with the component over here, the different accommodations. So when I built the package, I created Sydney accommodation, and I'm actually getting quite a lot of different hotels here. So you can see I have the Meriton Suites Kent Street by default selected. and I have allotment there, which is great. So I would rather obviously choose this hotel over all of these on request hotels that I have here below. So these are all been set up as options within that package. And this is like, we've actually set them as options. Like we've curated the list of hotels specifically in the system for this package. And what's happened as a result, we only get that. However, with dynamic packaging, you could essentially just set a query. You could say, hey, give me everything that's matching a Sydney 4-star hotel. And then the system would dynamically retrieve all the different options that have been set up in the system. So it allows you to combine things quite easily. So a very typical use case is that you might have a core package that you sell as a small group touring or your core package on a fixed departure schedule, for example. And then you might have a pre and a post night. And you could actually do a package where the pre-night is dynamic and the post-night is dynamic as well. And that makes it very easy for the sales user to go through the quoting process for the customer. Now, I'm pretty happy with my selection. I just want to use default. I see that I have all my flights in here. I have all my transfers in here. It looks great. So I'm just going to go ahead and save and take a look at my costing configuration. So I can see here that I'm pretty happy with my overall margin here. If I look at individual profit per different lines, I see that this is coming out pretty well. The total costs versus total amount makes sense. There's no reseller commission because this is a direct booking. And I have a pretty decent markup and a pretty decent margin here coming out of this. No tax is being applied in this particular case, and I'm not breaking up the itinerary for different guests. So everyone is doing the same thing. I could assign all of these different lines so that we have people coming in on separate flights or people doing different activities and things like that. So just adding this package, takes a couple of seconds, configuring it and adjusting it. You can always go back into the component for this, and you can always see what's a package because it has this little box here. But I can always then just add individual items. So if I just want to go and add the Marina Side Hotel, for example, or whatever hotel in Sydney. So let's do a Sydney double. It gives me all the different options that I have for double rooms in Sydney. And that's just tailored around just really quickly being able to add different individual items into the itinerary. From a search perspective, we usually work with customers on building search screens. So we have a very powerful API that essentially allows you to filter down on whatever attribute that you have on your different item model so that you can do custom search and do search based on your different use cases. So it just depends on the model, whether you're selling a lot of different destinations or you're focused on one destination, is how important the search criteria is. But we usually work with customers on building something that's quite unique to them, so that there's no compromise for the searching and the usage of the search functionality in the system. Okay, so I have my itinerary. I'm going to go and create a document to the customer to share this itinerary with the customer. So because I have my channel, FIT channel, I'm going to get the FIT quote stage as my default, and I can choose a template, quote with agenda. And it automatically gives me a banner image that I can always change for this document. And then I'm going to generate my quote. What the system is not doing, it is creating a dedicated landing page just for this customer, just for Joe. So I have here the customer preview. I can see exactly what the system has put together for me based on my selection. So this is all dynamically being put together based on this itinerary. And if I go into the summary, I can actually see different articles about the hotels and the different services that I've added into this itinerary. So I click on my Kent Street suites, I can actually go and look at the images that we have loaded in for that item in one of our standard components here. So you can get some very nice information on the hotels, kind of giving the customer a very nice impression of what you've put together for him, if this is an FIT holiday, for example. We also have the map feature, so you can very easily see, how the journey is for this particular customer, and we can always click on different things here. So what's obviously very powerful is that if you're doing a extended stay with a lot of activities with a lot of different hotels, it shows up really nicely on the world map to be able to visualize where I'm going to be staying. And I'll be able to quickly go through my different days here to highlight the areas within each day that I'm visiting. All right. So I can personalize this. I can click on edit and then I open up my edit screen, but I can also go as the customer and simply simply pay for this itinerary on this landing page. So when we actually post this, so we have this button here, send and publish. This will actually publish the itinerary to the customer, and the customer will be able to see what we just saw earlier, including that ready to book button. And what we have done with different payment gateways, we've integrated now with I think 6 different payment gateways, and we can integrate with most payment gateways depending on their APIs, where we can actually collect payments through the system, through the payment gateways. So the flow would be here that they would simply click ready to book, choose their payment amount or their deposit that they need to pay, and then we collect the payment on their behalf. But we can also have a question being asked. So the customer can actually add a comment in here, and this would come back into the chatter functionality. And then we can also say, actually, I'm not interested. Tell me why I'm not interested. And then we can feed back that comment to the sales agent. All right. So we're ready to send and publish. We'll do that. It grabs an email template that has been defined for this channel. And this is what the customer gets, a link to his personalized itinerary, where the person can then go and pay for his trip and come back into the system with a booking number. All right. So we have around 3 minutes left. I wanted to use the opportunity to show you one of our features that relate to how you collaborate with suppliers in the system. So remember earlier I showed you, how the confirmation method for different hotels is being managed. So if I now just look at all the bookings that I have for this itinerary, I can then go and just show the accommodation components. Okay, so here are certain accommodation components. I can then select all of them, confirmation action, send a confirmation. Now what this will do is whatever email or contact that I've configured for on the supplier level, they will receive an email. And that email will contain a link. And if I go into view details, I can actually see what that link looks like. So within that link, the supplier gets this very nice landing page just for them. So this is the Australian DMC that I'm working with, who has a group size of 2 people, who has, this is my reference number for the booking, and the name on the booking is Joe Smith. And this is coming from Keith Emerson at Let's Travel. So I'm asking the recipient of this email, the DMC, to confirm these 3 hotel nights. Okay, one of them is on allotment, one of them is on request, and this is on request. I'll confirm that. I'm then asking them, please confirm these rates that I'm using. Are these correct? Supplier confirms that. They can add in a comment, and we can configure it so that if they do not confirm something, they're required to put in a comment. And then we can put in who it is who responded to this and their confirmation number. When I submit this, it will come automatically back into the system. So if I go now again to my bookings page, here we go, and we see that if I filter back down to my accommodation, it's now been confirmed. If I make amendments, it will automatically be unconfirmed again, and then we can send out another confirmation. And anything of this can be automated. So you can, for example, as soon as you get the deposit payment, you can automatically send out the confirmation to the different hotels. So it's quite easy to set up workflows in using Process Builder to define that kind of workflow. Okay, so I did the thing that I always do, which is run over on time. Apologies for that, but I think I managed to go through the sort of core of the systems. There's plenty left to be shown. And I hope that you received, you got a better understanding of what Kaptio and Salesforce can do as a technology, and don't hesitate to reach out to to Shane after the session if you have any further questions. And yeah, thank you for joining this product webinar, and we hope to see you again very soon.